Hi everyone, so this is summer review video number 1 talking about the slope of a line. But let's talk about what we use lines for in general. Lines are used to show that the rate and amount changes over time. So it's really important that we understand how they change over time. So let's look at these lines that I drew on the page. If I said to you that these lines represented your grade in a class over a certain amount of time, which grade would you want? Would you want the grade that's rising? And as a reminder, we read graphs. We read graphs from left to right. We read graphs from left to right. So this is rising from left to right. So your grade would be going up. This one is actually declining over time. This one actually is staying constant over time. It looks like the grade isn't changing. I don't know that I'd want that one. And this one is also rising from left to right, but a little bit faster than, say, the first one. And we call this one steeper. So this one has a steeper slope. Now this last one's an interesting one. This one actually isn't declining or rising, and we say that this does not have a slope. This is called no slope, and you might recognize that as a vertical line. All right, so as a reminder, and you learned all this last year, this should just all be review, that there's 3 ways to find the slope of a line. Okay, the first way is when you're given a graph, you can count the rise over the run, because the slope of a line is the rise over the run. Okay, so rise means up, down, the vertical change, okay? And run is the horizontal change. And sometimes your teacher might have said change in y over change in x. All right, so if I'm looking for the slope of this line, I'm going to calculate the rise from point to point. So here, I could go from this star here, I could rise 2. So I'm going up 2, and I'm going to the right 1. So that would be the run of 1. And so my slope would be 2 over 1, which is 2. Now, that same slope should happen for every single calculation you do of the rise over run between points. So 1, 2 of a rise, and 1 over. Now remember, you also can go backwards if you wanted to. If I was like right here, I could go down 2. But if I go down 2, that would be in the negative direction. So that's a negative 2. And then to the left one is also a negative 1. So that would be negative 2 over negative 1. And those negatives would cancel, again, giving me a slope of 2. So just as a reminder, this is something that we would call a positive slope. So positive slope means they're increasing from left to right, whereas if it was decreasing from left to right, we would have a negative slope. All right, so that's one way. The second way to find the slope of a line is to use the slope formula. The slope formula, as a reminder, is y1 minus y2, okay, over x2 minus x1. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Sometimes I help kids remember that, and I always tell them that it's the rise over the run. And I spell rise wrong so that you remember that the formula has the y in the top. So again, rise over run. And this is, again, just another way to write change in y over change in x. Change in mathematics means subtract. All right, so if I wanted to find the slope of a line that contains some points, I would just label my points. I'm going to call this x1, this one y1, although it doesn't matter, and I'm going to call this one x2, y2. And so I'm going to do 4 minus 2 all over negative 1 minus 5. Remember, you want to pick from the same coordinate point. 4 minus 2 is going to give me 2. Negative 1 minus 5 is going to give me negative 6. I would simplify that to negative 1/3. So that means that my slope is negative 1/3. All right. And then the third way to find the slope is to use one of the 3 equations that you've learned about. Now we're going to go into more detail on these equations, but slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, m, the constant, the coefficient to the x, is my slope. So I can look at the equation, so maybe like this, y equals 2x plus 5, and the slope would be 2. Point slope form, which is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, would look something like this. And my slope in this case, you can see directly by looking at it. It's the m, it's the coefficient, it's the variable, the number that we use in place of m, so it's 5. So my slope would be 5. Now, not everyone may have learned this, but standard form, you did learn that form, but you might not have learned how to find the slope quickly from standard form. So I'm just going to show it to you now. Standard form would look like this: 2x plus 5y equals 7. To find the slope in standard form, you can do negative a over b, meaning take the coefficients to the x and the y and put them over each other and make it negative. So in this case, my slope would be negative 2 over 5. All right, guys, that's your quick review of slope. Have a great night.